Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What happened if someone calls?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Matt Holmes here, bodysynergytraining.com and tacwads.com, coming to you with another Feature Friday interview. Got a special guest today, all the way from another side of the world here. I have Olof Elwin, if I make sure I did that correctly. And Olaf's great. We connected through Facebook as I'm trying to connect more with people that are like-minded, do similar training, things like that. And thought I'd have him on with a lot of things that he's been doing, what he's done. I know you said it was your daughter, correct, that has some world records with kettlebell long cycles, things like that. So I'm excited. I know everybody's going to get a lot out of this, and I'll kind of let Olaf give a little bit of his background and where he started and what he's doing now.
Oh, Matt, that will be a long story. And hi to everybody. I actually started many years ago as a young kid. I did wrestling, I did table tennis, and then in the mid-70s, I had the idea that I wanted to get strong. So together with a free-time employee in the school, when you're not in the classroom, you have some people that took care of you, at least in the 70s, and you played around. And together with one of those leaders, we started a weightlifting club, 1975, in outside Stockholm. It was pretty cool. It was in the basement of a swimming hall. So we had 5 centimeters of water on the floor, and we had a rack, we had a barbell, we had some weights and a bench, and we started to train. And then a couple of months later, we moved to a small room, maybe 20 square meters, and we started to do weightlifting training. I was 13 then, and it was pretty fun, and we worked with classmates, and we started a club, and it grew pretty big. And then in the 80s, I moved away from Stockholm, but I've heard now that the club is still existing 40 years later. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool, to have that and, where you guys got it started and everything. So how did you kind of progress to where you are now and your current place that, you gave me a little bit of a tour of? Kind of how did all that start?
It started maybe 8 to 10 years ago. No one in Sweden had heard about kettlebells. Neither did I. I know that if probably people all over the world know about Pippi Longstocking, the very strong little girl. Have you heard about her? She who lifts horses, the kid stories, Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And actually in a movie from the 60s, there is a circus guy, and he lifting kettlebells, and people in Sweden know about him. His name is Olof. So in the 60s, kettlebells was used in films in Sweden. In the 70s, a hockey trainer, a Russian hockey trainer, trained the best guys in Sweden, the best teams in Sweden with kettlebells. So kettlebells were somewhere in the background in Sweden all the time. But the average person did not know anything about kettlebell training 10 years ago in Sweden. And as everybody else, I read about Pavel, I read about RKC and the training they did, and I was fascinated. So I got my first set of kettlebells. I've never touched it before, I'd never seen it before, but it was kind of cool. I liked the idea of kettlebell training, even if I never tried it. So I had my first kettlebell set from 8 kilo up to 40 kilo. And I learned very quick how to get blisters in the hands. No technique, no ideas. And it was really hard, and it was killing. So I decided to take my first education. I went to Denmark, and I attended I think the second RKC training in Europe. And it was really cool. I learned a lot about training. After that, we started to see, okay, let's do more about this, because of this with kettlebell training is cool. So from the hard style training with Pavel, it went more to the competition style. So when Valery Fedorenko first time were in Europe, except he was in Athens the year before, I was a part of the education he had in Switzerland, the first World Kettlebell Club real education in Europe. I had the first raw script for his manual for his training concept. So together with Valery Fedorenko and Scott Sonnen was there as well. We were 10, 15 people in Switzerland and did his course for competition kettlebell training. And then I was really hooked. I got a good contact with Scott Sonnen, so we decided to take him to Sweden. So a couple of months later, he came to Sweden and we had the first competition style kettlebell education. And we had a clubbell education. And after that, we decided, okay, this is pretty cool. There's a lot of good coaches around the world. So let's bring them to Sweden. So from Scott Sonnen, we after that brought Steve Cotter, we brought Steve Maxwell, we brought Josh Henkin with Ultimate Sandbags, and we took Ivan Ivanov with the Bulgarian training bag. We brought Matt Wyszynski. And then when the Russian team with Sergei Rachinsky and those guys decided to start to make education outside Russia, the first place they actually chose to put their education in was in my little hometown in the middle of Sweden, in the middle of actually nowhere. So first in the world outside Russia, we had the national champion team doing kettlebell training in my little gym here in Sweden.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm pretty proud of it. So it's special, and those guys are special. We learned a lot regarding training and how to train for endurance. And as you started in your presentation, my daughter, she got really hooked, and she's special. She has a tremendous power to continuing. She's so stubborn. I don't know how she survived her childhood, but she has a stubbornness that you can't compare with anything else. So she decided to become world champion. And to become a world champion as a girl, 19 years old, you need to do some exceptional things. And she decided to be best in kettlebell long cycle marathon. So 2012, she took her first world, no, actually it was earlier, 2012 in the summer, she took the first world record with a 22 kilo kettlebell. She did 500 repetition long cycle. It took 53 minutes, I believe. Then in November, she did it with 24 kilo. She was up to make it with 26 kilo. I think she has world record for marathon there as well. But 300, 400 repetition with a 26 kilo kettlebell long cycle without putting it down.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and it's a small girl, 65 kilo, so it's 140 pound.
Yeah, and that's impressive for anybody, let alone, a female, and her being only 19.
Yeah, it's special, and we start to actually put a lot of thinking into what makes it possible. And we start to measuring heart rate, we're measuring how she breathes, what's actually happening in the body. And it's actually so fine-tuned that if you increase the speed with maybe a half or a quarter of repetition per minute, you will hit the wall. It's to have the exact speed so you can go for an hour.
Yeah.
We'll see if she did 10 repetition per minute. She will last for 10 minutes with 24 kilo. Or maybe if she did 10.5 repetition per minute. If she did 9.5 repetition, she will last for 1 hour.
Wow.
And it's all about how to get the heart rate and the recovery into the right right level. And when we measured her 1 hour with the 24 kilo, it was pretty amazing to see that she did 9.5 repetition every single minute for 52 minutes. So the first minute, 9.5 repetition per minute, the 52nd minute, 9.5 repetition per minute. Then the 3 last minutes, she actually speeded up to 10 repetition per minute. As a
How long
small
did it
sprint.
take you guys to kind of work that out and find out like that whole kind of process basically of knowing, you know, where it's not too little so she can get the number she needs, but it's not too much to where she'll hit that wall too early?
It started with a lot of just see what's happening in the body and to see how much the heart rate was affected from any kind of disturbance in the facility. What happened around her? It was enough that someone said something, someone's challenged her, and the heart rate just went up maybe 2, 3, 4%. You know, when you get stressed in some way, the heart rate just raises a little bit. And how, if there was any kind of disturbance, she lost maybe 10% of her capacity. And then we understood that we need to work with mental training. We need to put her in situations so she actually do not get disturbed. Whatever happens, people die around them. She don't care. And there was photographers and everything. So she did not anything affect her heart rate. And she had that absolutely control of what she did and how she could actually do this repetition after repetition.
And that's
So
some crazy mental focus right there.
Yeah, and when you have that mental focus, you actually manage to direct your heart rate. And it would be fun or interesting to see more scientific of what's happening in the body. If you look at the Russians, when they do their crazy stuff, and then we're talking about real crazy stuff. Sergei Rachinsky, who took the first world record with 12 hours of long cycle, is doing the same shit for 12 hours. He did 5,555 repetition with 24 kilo kettlebell.
It's so crazy to think that, and for, you know, thinking of doing anything, let alone an activity like that. Again, like there's obviously a huge physical aspect of it, but the mental side with doing those, you know, anytime, if it's that 12-hour or it's, you know, an hour, there's a huge mental component that plays into how well you're going to perform and be able to keep going like that.
Yeah, and it's still about 500 repetition per hour, and that's pretty speedy. It's 10 repetition per minute.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to put the kettlebell down. Very few people knows about the Russians when they start with the kettlebell competition, and the whole history about kettlebell training. Very few people knows that the official games started in the mid-90s. Earlier, they did not have any competition like what we have today. So it's a very, very young sport.
Yeah.
Before mid-90s, they had their Girvik competition. Strongest was the most beautiful in town, even if it was ugly. You got all the girls. And it was just to become strong and become the protector of the city. So in the mid-90s, they started with a real kettlebell competitions. And one of the tasks, one of the things they competed in was double 32s, who stand the longest time in rack position. Who could stand with 232s before they dropped the kettlebells? And they did it for a couple of years, but the competition was so boring because they stand up for 2 days, 3 days with those two 32 kilo kettlebells. We looked at Sergei Rechinsky when he was here in my hometown, and he showed us how they sleep with kettlebells.
Wow.
They have their 64 kilo kettlebells up in the rack position, and he stand up and they put the body in a balanced position like sleeping horses. And they stood there for a couple of days.
That's just crazy. And these are the things like you never hear about. Like people, see, a kettlebell and they just think, the typical stuff that normal places will do with it, or people haven't heard about it, but you never hear about, all of these, the crazy shit that's been done with them over the years, especially like you're saying back in the early days.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that kettlebells is, as we know, a pretty nice tool to get power endurance. You actually build up your stamina. You can work with explosion. You can work for a long time with heavy loading. We had a lecture with the Swedish or National Committee for Weightlifting. They invited us, and the kettlebell community here in Sweden are part of the National Weightlifting Organization. And weightlifters are, as expected, pretty not really fond of that kind of new stuff like kettlebell training. It's not weightlifting, so it can't be good. The idea people have.
Yeah.
And then when we did this presentation for them, and we know for a weightlifter, high repetition training for a weightlifter is more than 4 repetition. A weightlifter seldom do more than 4 to 6 repetition for anything.
Yeah.
A total workout for a weightlifter could be maybe 10, 15, 20 lifts. That's the whole session.
Yeah.
Especially for Swedish weightlifters. And the problem for those weightlifters is that they do not have any power endurance. They can't go on. And it take a long time for them to recover. And when we showed them what my daughter do with a 24 kilo kettlebell, that she could do 100 repetition for 10 minutes, that she could do 500 repetition for 1 hour, and what's happening with her body, then they start to realize that this kind of high repetition training would dramatically change the outcome of what a weightlifter can produce. The same thing with a power lifter. What can they actually produce in power? So hopefully those kind of toys that you play around with, that I play around with, will help athletes to become stronger and be able to do way more. I will tell you another story. We have a very, very talented athlete, a girl, Sofia, here in Sweden. She's a javelin thrower. She's 17, 18 now, 18, and she's been to the grown-up classes for javelin throwing. But when she was 16, she actually had the European record for javelin. Do you call it javelin or spear? Javelin.
Javelin.
And she was actually she threw the javelin 50% longer than all her competitors.
Wow.
And that's pretty dramatically. And the question was, what made that girl so special?
Yeah, because that's at a level like that, and to be that consistent, like, yeah, if you're, a percentage, that high percentage over, 1, 2, okay, that can happen. But to be pretty much over everybody, that definitely stands out of like, okay, what's this person doing different?
Her father made the difference. He was an old wrestler.
Oh, okay.
And he actually used wrestling training for Sofia. And he added on to get the power, heavy kettlebells. And he bought new kettlebells from me. It's 2 years ago. He sent me an email and said, I need 2 new kettlebells for Sofia. And I asked, what kind of weights do you need? And he answered, I need 128 kilo and 136 kilo. because the 24 has been too light for her to snatch. And that's as well a girl on 65 kilo weight class. So she snatches a 36 kilo kettlebell, but she did it for just a very few repetitions to get the power, the explosiveness in her body. That made a difference. Then when you look at the javelin thrower, you know they need to be 100% stable in the rotation. When they throw from their hip and all the power comes from the ground and they get the power away. And then her father realized that I need to train her in core stability and to get explosive in the core. So with a 35-pound or a 17-kilo Bulgarian training bag, she did the rotational training. She actually did Bulgarian bag, heavy rotational spins with Bulgarian training bag.
You said you were the first to bring those into Sweden too, right?
I was actually the first one who brought the Bulgarian training bag outside the wrestling arena from Ivanov.
Oh, okay.
So before even Ivan had an education by himself for fitness industry, I had my education. And I worked pretty close with Ivan Ivanov and the Bulgarian training bag. And in a couple of weeks, he comes here and visit me in Sweden for fourth or fifth time. So we have a very close cooperation, and I work close with Ivan Ivanov and the idea he has around the Bulgarian bag training. And it's a tremendously good tool to work with.
Yeah, they're definitely, and it's even another thing that's, more new than the kettlebells and stuff. Like I got a friend that's in Kuwait that just started bringing them out there to Kuwait, and nobody's seen them out there, and he loves them. And there's so much you can do with them that you can't get. Same thing with the kettlebells. You don't get it with a dumbbell or a barbell. It's a different aspect that you get with it.
I have to say that Bulgarian bag is probably one of the most complete exercise tool you can ever find, except maybe your body. But to have a eluded tool, you can do everything with a Bulgarian training bag, and you can do it wherever you are. You can do it indoors in your nice living room, and people won't shout if you drop it on your nice wooden floor, because nothing will happen.
Yeah. And that's why I've used a lot in the past, and I still like to with, the sandbags and stuff too. I know you mentioned that earlier too with some of the sandbags. They're similar, but they're also very different. But they get the same kind of effect that you can use it anywhere. It's not going to damage a floor. There's a different kind of a strength and conditioning aspect that you get out of using those than anything else.
Yep. For sure. And we use, I don't know if you heard about this combination of words, but when we're talking about this kind of training with the kettlebells and with the Bulgarian training bag, we're talking a lot here at Spartan, at my company, about power endurance.
Yeah.
To remain the power for a long time. So with the Bulgarian training bag and with the kettlebells or sandbags or whatever tools we ever use, we're working to increase our power and do it for a longer time.
Yeah, more.
And if you look at the formula, you can actually use power endurance to get stronger, because you can get all the power into one lift if you have the power to collect it, or you can burn fat faster, or you can actually work on your endurance to lower the weight, because you have the power and you have the recovery capacity in your body to get the power back for a new repetition. That's what we saw with my daughter. She could do it again and again and again, and she worked a lot to just raise the pace a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like you're saying with as far as the endurance goes and the fat loss, you know, if you take, a lot of people think, well, oh, you know, it's a steady state, where yes and no, because there's a power aspect. It's not just a total, like long distance running as a steady state over and over, single steps. So, you know, it's different with doing, say, the long cycles, because you are actually resting. It's not like you're just pushing up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. They said there's the power endurance aspect, which is going to totally hit the body different as far as the conditioning way goes than as far as the muscles are working as well.
You know, it's and still we have such a tremendous capacity in our bodies, and we look into one of my big role models for training, or maybe not, but he's a very special person, Valentin Dikol. You probably heard about him. The Russian guy who looks like Santa Claus, and he's a circus artist, the one who's juggling with 90-kilo kettlebell.
Yeah,
he did those absolutely crazy things with barbells, and he's extremely strong. Not everybody knows that Valentin Dikol, as a circus artist, when he was 14, he broke his back, and he was paralyzed for 7 years.
Wow.
And worked him back from that paralyzed status, and become one of the strongest men on earth. Valery Fedorenko, we asked him, because he knows Valentin Dikol pretty well, and we asked him, Valery, how come Valentin Dikol is so strong? And Fedorenko answered very shortly, and he said, it's very simple. Valentin Dikol, 16-kilo kettlebells, 700 repetitions every day.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, but what probably happened with Valentin Dikol was that he damaged in his back injury the nervous system. So those breaks you have in the body through the Golgi apparatus. Do you know the Golgi? I don't know how to pronounce it in English.
Yeah.
The Golgi thing.
Yeah.
So he could actually probably press his body or his muscles or his joints a little bit further than anyone else. And still in strength, we know that we are able to use maybe 20% of our muscle strength. The nervous system just block us. And with this power endurance training, we actually put ourselves a little bit further up. If you will want to become faster in your running, even if you do long distance, yes, you need to do intervals. If you do kettlebell marathon, yes, you need to increase your speed a little bit and working it up longer. For Sofia Flink in the javelin throwing, she worked with heavy kettlebells to become explosive, and that she could actually get all the power into one single throw.
Yeah.
So it's pretty remarkable how you can use those tools, get the body to work all together like a Bulgarian training bag or a kettlebell or sandbag. You just get the muscle structures to work as a unit. And then with training, you can get them to produce as much power as possible.
And
that's pretty cool.
A lot of those too is it has a larger carryover, being that they're, you know, an odd object or not a conventional, you know, barbell or a dumbbell. You know, you can do similar movements obviously with the dumbbell that you can with the kettlebell, but it's totally different with the way that the balance of it. It's, you know, I've always told people, I'm like, try and do swings, you know, with a dumbbell and then do swings with kettlebells. Totally different of the way that it's going to feel on your body, and same thing with anything else. So I think that's a huge part of it too, is the carryover that comes from using those to doing all of these other competitions or sports that someone does.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty cool. If we go back to Ivan Ivanov and Bulgarian training bag, he comes up with a new tool recently. He called it Fitball. And it's a development of the idea of the rotational training from the Bulgarian training bag. And I've sold some of those fit balls to people, and they ask, what weight do you think I should use? And we figured out that with another weight, the disposition, do you call it that? When the weight are disposed in another way, like the difference between a kettlebell and a dumbbell, it's the weight actually works in another way.
Yeah, okay.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And with a fit ball, so a 6 kilo fit ball, it's equal or it's actually heavier to work with than a 17 kilo Bulgarian training bag in the same movement, because the weights works in another way. You do the same kind of movement, but it's 3 times heavier with a fit ball. But you can use your power in another way, and you can actually be even more explosive. And as for a wrestler, it has to be explosive power. You can't throw your competitors without explosiveness in your body. And in the real life, if you want to make a barbell snatch or a barbell jerk, you need explosiveness in your body. If you want to do a bicycle sprint, you need to be explosive in your body. So all those tools actually help us to build that kind of power endurance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's anything you do, you're going to need, it's going to have a carryover for that. And even as far as endurance goes, you know, even if somebody just was an enduro athlete or, you know, an Ironman athlete, it's going to have a carryover for that, not just these power sports, you know, the javelin thrower or Olympic lifters or even regular sports of football players, things like that, that you need to have that full body power as well. It's going to have a carryover that you're not going to get from anything else, but from doing these.
Yep, indeed.
And then you also use the baseballs, correct? Or
one more, the baseball correctors.
the mace, you use the clubs.
Yes. All kind of clubs. We use all. You mean club bells now? You're talking about club bells.
Yeah. Club bells. Sorry. I mean balls and this, and then my brain's all over the place right now with them.
So yes, I'm pretty good at the wooden clubs, the small wooden clubs, and how it affects your shoulder area in a very cool way.
Yeah.
It's get a lot of oxygenized blood into your joints and your small muscles, and it's a lot of good things for rehab. And if you go up for the iron club bells, you get more power, you get even more into the strength part of it.
I was going to ask you on those of how do you implement those from a rehab standpoint or prehab to a more of a strength standpoint, because I see a lot of people use them, you know, and I'm not an expert on them as I would say you are, but I see a lot of people that they're like, oh, these are great, and they kind of know a very small base, but they're totally using them wrong, not how they should be. You know, just more so it's like, oh, look at this, it looks cool. So how do you implement them and use them in the various aspects?
Actually, 95% of all the training with club bells is for me with the light wooden clubs. Mm-hmm. And we do it for a long time, let's say 15, 20, 25 minutes, and we just rotate them. And what's happening when you rotate your shoulders in different ways, your shoulder, all the muscle and joints and directions in your shoulder get activated. So most people, if you are rotated, your shoulders are rotated forward,
yeah,
you have lack of muscles on the back side. You have a little bit too strong chest and too little muscles on the back side. With the clubs, you activate all your muscles. And with a play around, it's just to make it fun, because it could be pretty boring to do the same movement for 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And when it comes into juggling, you activate your brain. And we use, to quote Scott Sonnen, when he said, when you do the same repetition pattern for more than 14 minutes, 14, 14 minutes, things start to happen with your body, with your immunity system, with your brain. You start to get new connections up in your brain. It's actually happened things in your body. And what people feels when we do 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes light Indian club training is that they've become rejuvenated. They just feel, wow, this is so cool. And we use the cool factor to rehab their shoulders. Uh, you know, it's cool to juggling with clubbells, but it's not cool to go on rehab.
Yeah.
So we use it, and when we do the Bulgarian bag training, often together with the Bulgarian training workouts, we add in clubbells, because most of the people can't work out efficient for 40 minutes with the Bulgarian training bag. It's too heavy.
Yeah.
It's too much impact on the body. So then we do 10, 15 minutes Bulgarian training bag, 5, 10 minutes with the clubbells, and then we go on. The iron club, I barely never use them. There's very good exercises for knee rehab, but I do not really see that they are. It's just a cool factor, but you do the same kind of training with kettlebells in a better way. You do the same kind of training with a Bulgarian training bag, but in a better way. So it's cool to work with the clubbells, but I do not see really a necessity to have it in your training. You have better tools to get the same gain.
Where did you
Then
learn to use a lot?
I love the mace bells.
Uh-huh.
And it's the cool factor as well. And you work a lot with imbalance in your body, and you put the weight far out on one side, or you do the 360 swings, spins. And it's cool, and it feels good in the shoulders, and it feels very good in your grip. But it's more for the coolness than for actually beneficial training.
Uh-huh.
With the small Indian clubs, there's a lot of good things that happen in your body.
Where did you learn a lot on how to use those, how to implement them? So for other people that are interested in finding out more and implementing them, they kind of know where to look from there.
We started, Scott Sonnen was here, and we did the heavier clubbells, and learned quite a lot about the ideas how to get the body to be compact and to get the muscles together. Scott Sonnen used to put out a question. He used to ask, how many muscles do you think we have? And there's a variation of answers. And most people answer about 400, but every little hair, all small hair in your body has their own muscles. So we have millions of muscles in our body, even if they are small, if you see it in that way. But Scott Sonnen answered more philosophical, and he says, we maybe have different kinds of muscles, but actually, to be truly honest, we just have one muscle with a hell of a lot of alignments. And we need to work with the body as one unit. You can't just work with one muscle. You need to get them to work together. So that was the whole idea. And then when we get the first wooden clubs here, we just looked at how do they present it. So we started to play around with it. Here in my little hometown, we had a couple of guys who really went into it. They were so into it and watched every single YouTube movie. We looked into how circus people use the same kind of tools for juggling.
Oh, okay.
And we learned a lot from circus people. What kind of movement do they do? What kind of tricks do they have? and it's just for fun. So we do quite a lot of juggling with the club bells. Not as a circus artist, because they are a little bit heavier. And then it comes a question, and we're used to, oh, okay, what kind of use do I have for that? Well, it's fun. And when you play, you do not train, but the body get a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
If you take your kettlebells out and do 20 minutes outdoor juggling with a 16 or 20 or 24 kilo kettlebells, you will have fun, and you will need a day off for recovery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it's definitely it's going to shock the body or whatever you want to call it, because it's different.
Yeah, and here it comes with the impact from the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you tell a person to squat, they can't squat. If you tell a person to jump, they know how to jump,
Mm-hmm.
because the brain tells the body to do the movement correct. If you start to play, the body knows how to move. If you tell a person how to swing, they have no clue at all. It's so cool to see people and says, okay, yes, swing it through your legs and let the kettlebell go and catch it. And they do a perfect swing. They get their body together, they get everything right, they have short arms, they get their shoulders right, everything is there when they play. But if you tell them, okay, now it's time to do a regular kettlebell swing, hold your shoulder backs, get to your breathing, everything should be like this, and you try to learn them the technique, they will be lost.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not natural to them. They think about it too much, where like saying if it's something that's more of a play, it's like do this, and it's natural for them to just, even if they haven't done anything for a while, there's still that connection, I think, from playing when you're a kid.
Yeah, and the body knows how to move if you give them the body a reason to move in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's the impact from the brain and what kind of nerve impact, I don't know, you understand.
Yeah. So how do you piece all of this together between everything? I know it's going to be different depending on the desired outcome, but kind of how do you piece all the tools in? Because a lot of people say, oh, I want to do this and that, and you can really get overwhelmed quickly with all of it. But it's kind of putting them all into a complete package to get everything that we're talking about. So kind of how do you do that with everybody?
Okay, it's pretty simple. We put it up what we call a system for training. We call it Spartan Training System. It's very simple, and it's built on 5 parameters. And first, you need to know how to move. You need mobility, flexibility, stability in your body. For Spartan Training System, the first thing, you need to move your body, know how to move your body. The second thing is that you need to load your body. You need loading, you need resistance in one way. However, the resistance and the loading won't work unless you have balance in your body. Right side, left side, up, down.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get the body to work as one unit.
Yeah.
The mobility, the loading, the balance. The fourth part is the motive. Why do you train? Is it fat loss, or is it to be a bicycle racer, or is it to be a sprinter, or is it to be a kettlebell lifter? You need to know why and what outcome you're going for. And if you know that, you know your outcome, well, then you change your loading, you train with your mobility, you get your balance in the body. And the fifth part is it has to be fun. Unless it's fun, well, the body works and works better if you enjoy your training.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And from that, if that is there, well, then it's variation. And we put it up an article in a magazine now about summer training here in Sweden. We put it 5 tools with different exercises. And the whole idea was, okay, use what you have. We had heavy slam balls, we had a battling rope, we have a Bulgarian training bag, we had other kind of tools, and we did 5 different exercises, and we used them for rotational, for throwing, for lifting. And it's just, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you actually do something with a purpose.
Yeah.
And if you want to burn fat, well, then you have the template for it here. Then choose what you think is fun. If you like kettlebells, use kettlebells.
Yeah.
If you want the softer tools, use a Bulgarian training bag. If you just want to work with high interval training, use a battling rope.
Yeah.
And here's 5 exercises that makes it fun. And you work with your whole body.
Yeah.
And if you want to become a kettlebell expert, well, we teach you that as well.
And I think with kind of going on some of that, that's important is the mental aspect, because you'll get burnt out. You see it all the time. People are just trying to do this, do that, and they don't have something to change, or it might not even be about changing, but something, they're doing something that they hate, that isn't interesting to them, and that's mentally draining. And then that carries over into the nervous system. Your body's just going to feel drained in general. So having that, and then the moving, the full body training. Too many people, as you see, and I know in conventional gyms, people are sitting on this machine, that machine. They're not moving their body and a weight or anything through space around them that they need to do full body. They need to move in all different directions. Incorporate all these things. That's going to have more of a carryover. The body, you're going to feel better. You're not going to get burnt out. Like you said, there's so much more to it. And like I said, if you want to do fat loss, there's so many ways that you can get that. It's not like, oh, okay, you want fat loss, we have to do battle ropes, or you have to just do some hill sprints. Like there's so many different ways you can go about it. And it's just working best for you and getting that full body movement in there.
Yeah, and make variations. Have fun, play with it. The reason why we do Indian clubs, yes, it's enough to rotate your shoulders, but we put in the play part. Do the juggling, make fun of it, and have a nice time and be skillful. Use your brain, get things to work together, dare to do things different, and just play with it. Play with the kettlebell. Play with a Bulgarian training bag. We do a lot of Bulgarian training bag challenges, and we have a small Facebook group that we call Spartan Bulgarian Bag Training Challenge. It's about 100 people there. Yeah, are you a part of that? I think so.
I don't think I am. I'll have to double check after this. There's so many different groups.
I invite you, and there's people from all over the world that actually do different kinds of challenges and write about it and what's happening with the Bulgarian training bag. And they found out new movements, and they found out different ways to use for power endurance, and just to encourage people to make variation in their training and connect people in ways of having fun with the training.
Mm-hmm. Let me think. I just spaced my mind. There was something at the start I was waiting to bring up, and I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it was. What are some of the best resources then that you would say overall for everybody? I know we've mentioned names, but I kind of want to put them all together because we've gone through different ones as we've gone across the spectrum of it all. What, in a condensed way of, the best sources for everybody to look at for, kettlebells or anything that we've been talking about, like what are your kind of top sources that you go to?
Oh, that was a wide question. Actually, I one of the idea I have is to look at different training regimes and go then crossover. Mm-hmm. When we put up our first Bulgarian bag training education, we actually used quite a lot from the kettlebell training. When we started with kettlebell sport, we used quite a lot from the Bulgarian bag training.
Okay.
And it's shown to be like, okay, if I add on another aspect of my training, I actually could become better on this. A friend of me, circus artist, is a baseman. He's juggling with his wife. He's really skillful and he's super strong, really super strong guy. And when he did the Bulgarian bag training, he come to me and he said, "Wow, this is amazing. Thanks to learning how to snatch a Bulgarian training bag, I actually become way better to snatch my kettlebell."
Okay.
So I think to become open for different kind of training regimes, look into what does a gymnastic guy do to become so strong in what they are doing. Oh, they do not have very much of legs, but they do training in different ways. What can I learn from that?
Yeah.
And look into them and see what they're doing. I will not be a champion of gymnastics, but I can use some of their training methodology.
Yeah.
For the kettlebell trainers, what do they do? When we had the world champion, Sergei Rachinsky, in our hometown, with a 12-hour of long cycle, he's such a cool guy. And we gave him a Bulgarian training bag. And he couldn't handle it because it was a tool that he'd never seen or never used. And he had no control. He was a super athlete, but he had never, ever done any kind of crossover training.
Mm-hmm. So it's good to get these different different implements in there, because while they are similar, they're also worlds apart at the same time. And as you're saying, there's carryover between them. Doing one will help the other. They're only going to complement each other.
Yes. And as you talked about sandbag training, you know that you can do 10, 15 different kinds of squats with a sandbag. You can do 3 or 4 different squats with a barbell. You can work in different ways and find new angles and get your power endurance thanks to those different tools.
Yeah.
So crossover training, and be open and start to figure out, why am I actually doing this? The body is not that complicated. But we have a couple of joints that could move in different directions, and we have muscles. Just get the shit together and work with the body. Play with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the biggest thing with it is, that we keep touching on, is making it interesting and basically playing, having fun. You need to have fun. And with all of these, that's one of the reasons why I liked them and what drew my attention to doing all of this stuff too, auto implement stuff, strongman style training. I love the barbell. The barbell, the barbell is never going to go away, but there's all these other things that, again, they're all complement each other. It's not to say one's better than the other. When you use them correctly in the right way, it's going to have a carryover and complement, and it's fun. It's not boring. I think if more people did it, more people would enjoy the training. I think that's I've been talking with some people. I talked the other day about CrossFit. Why people like CrossFit so much is they have fun. It's entertaining to them. It's not just going to a gym and sitting on a machine. It's the same thing. I think for this, or what we do is, there's that fun aspect to it. Whenever I had girls come and they started flipping one of the smaller tires, or they started using sandbags, they were like, "This is so much fun." They liked when they was like, "Hey, we're doing tire flips today." Saw it on the board, and they got excited because it was different and fun for them, and challenging and rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, it's fun to move the body and work with the body, and if you just look at people who works in their gardens, they are so strong. Farmer boys and farmer girls are so strong. Mm-hmm. And do they work out in the gym? No, seldomly. They just lifting, dragging, digging. They use their body.
Oh yeah, if you think picking up, baling and picking up hay, throwing it back and forth, chopping things, doing there's a reason, like saying, why they just have that brute strength and are just bigger, stronger guys for the most part, is, as people term, the farm boy style training, it's because of that. It's the same type of thing of using these odd implements and putting you in these, not picture perfect form that people would say of, doing a deadlift or a squat or any Olympic lifts that's, supposed to be super technical and picture perfect. It's totally different. It moves the body in more of a, not to say barbell lifts, things like that aren't natural, because the body is still moving. You want it to move in the best, most mechanical way. But if you look back on, where we came from, the things we did and how we've evolved and all this, it came from, the whole animalistic type thing and moving your body in these different, unconventional style ways. To me, it's awesome. I wish more people would do it. More gyms would promote it. I know it's semi-hard on a large scale because not a lot of people know about it. So if you just throw it into a gym, people aren't going to know what the hell they're doing. Like you see even with kettlebells now being added into gyms, people don't know what they're doing, let alone with the normal stuff you see. So there's an aspect to that, but it would just make our job better because a lot of people would want us to go around teaching people how to do it. So that would be awesome. But I wish, and I hope, I'm seeing it more now, I think, with, the kettlebells are coming out more. I've seen ropes at places, things that you wouldn't have seen even 5, let alone 10 years ago, that you're starting to see now in the past couple of years.
Yeah, and more tools are on their way coming. And it's nice in the future. Everything is needed. And again, it depends on why do you train? What's the motive? Why do you go to the gym? And maybe that's the most important question as a trainer, to ask a person, why do you come here? What's your outcome? A lot of people will say, well, I'm praying. And why? To become fit? No, probably not. Most people who runs to the gym and do the classes are not there for training. They're there for the community, for the feeling, for be a part of something, for the music. Yes, they be conditioned, but the purpose for them is just to get other things out from the training.
Yeah, and that's what, like always, like you're saying, these classes, I see people even do boot camps that are totally different than a normal style boot camp, and they sell them out because people are like, wow, this is great, it's different, which people like different, obviously, of why all this stuff is so popular, but it's fun. It's that culture aspect of it. It's not just going to the gym. Like, these people that are insane about spin classes or step aerobics. It's like you'll see the same person in there 6, 12 months later. They really haven't physically changed at all, but they keep going because they just enjoy doing it.
Yes, and that's an aspect that we can't say anything bad about because they get their outcome.
Yeah.
But they will not be the best javelin thrower in the world. Mm-hmm. And they will not be win any CrossFit games, or they will not take a competition in kettlebell training. The very interesting thing is when those people comes to an education and they actually learn how to train, they could be absolutely awesome in kettlebell competing, or they could actually be very much better in their if they do different kinds of race.
Yeah.
Like the toughest or Spartan race, or they actually want to do more with their bodies, and they realize, okay, I can become better, I can become stronger, I can become more. And it's good that people goes to the gym and do those group classes or that kind of training, because they actually move their body.
Yeah.
The next step is that they learn how to train and become better in training, how they actually increase their skills, they increase their strength, they increase their endurance, and they get a motive for what they're actually doing.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I tell people always, like, if someone likes to just run, if you enjoy it, great. I'm never going to tell somebody to not do something if they enjoy it. that's like, as we're saying, you want it to be fun and enjoyable. But I was telling people like, okay, we're not going to cut it out, but here's the outcome you want. Here's a better way to get it. You could still run if you want, but we're going to do this on top of it, still making that fun. And too, like you said, when they start to learn how to train and learn the right way, it just becomes more fun to them because they're getting the better results. They're trying something different. They're still doing what they loved before, maybe not as much or just, a little bit, but they're still doing that. And everything else on top of, what they originally loved, it just increases it more and the outcome is better.
Yep, indeed.
With that being said, I think we got a lot in here that with all these different things, people are going to be crazy trying to find out more. If people want to get a hold of you, ask you more questions or say, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I want, what's the best way people can get a hold of you to kind of pick your brain, find out more, maybe have you coach them, things like that?
Send me an email.
An email, and what's your email? I'll post it with everything too, but what is it for everybody?
If they go for info at spartantraining.se.
Spartantraining.se, okay. And then they can check out you, pull up your site, things like that.
And it comes, I'm on my way to redo my whole website, and we will actually put up within a couple of weeks a whole section that we called, the website's name is Spartan Training, but here it will be Spartan Training. How to train, and we actually put up coaches and blogging about how to reach those goals, and we will have 5, 6, 7 different trainers in different areas. We will have one girl who's very skillful in body fitness. We have one fighter girl. We have a female trainer who's very good in we call it mama training, when they just give birth and how to come back from giving birth. We will have a military trainer. We will have a real soldier who works with the soldier aspect, how to train people. So we will have different kinds of people as trainers and giving advices. And we will build everything around heart rate monitoring, how to get the best out of your training and how to monitoring your results.
Okay, that's awesome. That's definitely awesome. So people can check that out from your website and then email you any questions they have. And, I appreciate you taking the time. I know this is, I know you love this stuff. I enjoy it. It's definitely something different, which is why I wanted you on here compared to, a lot more the powerlifting and some of the nutrition stuff that we've had on here. I know it's going to be, it's awesome. And I'm going to be excited when I post this up here in about a week for everybody to check out and send them your way and, have them share it, post up questions. Because the more people that know about this, it's going to spread and people are going to get better results for what they want by using everything that we talked about.
Perfect. I'm happy to be part of it.
Perfect. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we had a few issues on trying to get it, but we got it done now. I'm excited. And, definitely I'll do my best to send more people, your way for info and checking out when's that new site going to be up with all of that then?
It's already up, but it will be, I think at the end of June, everything will be there.
Okay. Perfect. So everybody can stay tuned and by the end of June and, if anything, I'll make another post with this as well. Or if anything, maybe I'll wait a couple weeks and when that's done, I'll do it at the same time, post this up and send people right there when it's already up.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good day and we'll definitely be talking more and, hopefully sharing some ideas and things like that. 'Cause, there's a lot I know I can learn from you as well.
Oh, I can learn a lot from you. Looking forward to that, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. And have a good day.
Wish you the same. Thank you. Bye.